Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. We got to do the coffee drink. TGIF. Does everybody remember the song? Thank God it's Friday. That was a great movie with the Leatherman. I think that was Mandy Patinkin. Dancing. Everything else is bullshit. So, all my references, by the way, are going to be geared towards the X generation because I think out of this quarantine, it's going to finally become the X generation's time. And for those of you that don't know, the X generation are people that were born from between 1964 and like 1985, 1990. And everybody's completely forgotten about us. Everybody talks about the baby boomers and the millennials. And somehow the 65 million X generation people in the United States have completely disappeared. And nobody talks about us whatsoever. But quarantining is something that the X generation is going to be fantastic at. And we're going to come out of it feeling wonderful. And finally, the world is going to hear from the X generation. That's one of my predictions. So let's review a little bit. At the beginning of this, we talked about that state management was everything. If you could manage your state in tough times, then it gives you all the opportunities in the world to respond to situations in a positive way and in a way that moves you forward, as opposed to in a negative way, which negative responses to things usually means that you shut down. It's not so much that you move backwards. You do, but you move backwards because you just kind of quit, and then everything else keeps moving, but you just stop. So managing our state is everything. If you can manage your state, you got all the choices in the world. If you can't manage your state, then you have one choice. Just like, your health. Somebody with great health has a million dreams. Somebody with bad health only has one. So how do we manage our state? Well, we do it through our physiology, our physical body. If you do a radical change in your physical body, it radically changes how you feel. We do it on our focus/belief. Whatever you focus on, you get. Remember the telephone poles? If you focus on what you don't want, then that's where you're going to go. Down at Disney and the racetrack, if I focus on the wall, then I go to the wall. I need to focus on where I want to go, not where I'm headed, which many times can be very, very difficult. So focus/belief. Belief is whatever meaning you give to an experience is your reality and is the meaning of that experience. And two people can have the same experience and have it be two completely different meanings. And we talked about Bruce Springsteen versus Bette Midler and their abilities to take the stage. We talked about Viktor Frankl's man's search for meaning and the Jewish experience through the Holocaust, a very extreme example. But the belief that you have about an event dictates how you feel about the event. Remember, this reality is all something that we create. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And thought is what manifests all this reality. And so those beliefs that you have about what's possible create the reality. We talked about the Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile. How did he do that? All of the doctors said it was physically impossible. They said if a man tried to run a 4-minute mile, his heart would explode. Mankind, not a male. And how did Roger Bannister do it? He changed his belief, and he did it by conditioning. Every day, as he would run, he would see himself breaking that tape in less than 4 minutes. 3 minutes 59 seconds and 59 hundredths of a second. He would see it again and again and again and again. He conditioned himself to change his belief. And then as a result, that manifested and he changed his reality. But he also did it physically. He didn't just sit there and conditioned himself. He physically conditioned himself. He would do it while he was running. He would do it while he meditated too, but he would do it while he was running. He would see himself cross that line while he was engaging his physical body. So physiology, focus/belief, what we believe on something is our reality. And then we also did the finger turning around test, and then we just did a little bit of conditioning to have it go further, and then you went like 50% further. And then the last thing that we look at in terms of managing your state is language. We watch language because the labels that we put on something also decide how we feel about that thing. Is something interesting or is it devastating? Are we peeved, or are we frustrated, or are we massively pissed off, or is it catastrophic? Or, if you wanna watch a great attempt at the use of language, turn on the Weather Channel. The poor Weather Channel has to try to get everybody's attention, and they try to get everybody's attention by using these massive words to explain weather, which sometimes weather can be, massive, but for the most part it's not. And they, devastating, horrific, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they're trying to use words in order to change our physiology, right? They're trying to get our attention. That's what media is always trying to do now. There's so much information coming at us that they're trying to get our attention. So they do that by using extreme words in order to try to get our focus. So then we talked about the second most important thing is whoever you surround yourself with is who you become. And the 5 people that you spend the most time with is who you become. And you don't have to spend time with them physically. It's reading, it's watching YouTube videos, watching videos like this, listening to tapes, again, showing my age and being an X generation reference. So, and it can be even if you just sit there and imagine that these people are talking to you. One of the things that's in Think and Grow Rich is to create your own kind of board, to create your own brain trust that can be people alive or dead. And you just imagine that they're giving you advice. And as you do that, you'll read up on them and find out how they thought and what they did. And then use that as your boardroom in order to give you advice. And those are the people then that you'll be surrounding yourself with. And so that's who you'll become. Then we talked about how do you create change? Well, you have to have certain beliefs. And the beliefs are that something can change, that it must change, and that it must change now. And we talked about that the fact that it must change is what's really most important. And then there was 3 steps to lasting change. Number 1, you interrupted the pattern. And a lot of times if you feel like something must change, your pattern interrupts at the same time. And you got to get leverage. Leverage comes and then we interrupt the pattern. And those things typically happen simultaneously. If you determine that something is a must, you'll get enough leverage and you'll interrupt that pattern at the same time. I said interrupt the pattern first. I should have said leverage first. You need leverage first and then you interrupt the pattern. And then you got to instill a new pattern. You got to condition a new belief and a new way of approaching things because you've done the old way so many times that even if you've changed the belief and you change the habit, you might go back to it simply because you're conditioned to do that. So if you notice, if you kind of step back a little bit and we look at all of this, everything that we're doing is kind of to the same end. Everything that we're doing is conditioning ourselves to look at things differently because when we do that, we manage our state. So as we use these phrases like life is happening for me, not to me. If you can't, then you must. Everything happens for a reason and it serves me. As we incant these phrases, what that does is instead of being in a knee-jerk response, we might have the knee-jerk response, but then we start looking at it differently. Rather than looking at the problem, we start looking at, okay, if everything in life serves me, then what can I get out of this? What is the positive that I can get out of this? What's the lesson that I can get out of this situation so that I can move forward? What's great about this? What could be great about this? Remember the morning questions that we talked about? Filling yourself full of gratitude so that you conditioned yourself to feel a certain way as you approached your day, turning off social media, turning off the news, starting out uploading your brain every morning with, here's what I want in my life, here's my goals, here's my outcomes, here's my values, here's who I am every morning. These are the values that I live with. And then do something physical, do a walk. One of the first days that I was on the air, I took you out with me in the dark on my morning walk where we do our incantations. Every day in every way, I'm feeling stronger and stronger. Every day in every way, I'm feeling stronger and stronger. If you ever see me going through the park, you'll hear me saying these things. I'm saying these things out loud. And you might look and go, well, that's kind of weird. But you know what? It works. There's a reason that the military does what it does. They don't do all of that stuff because it seems cute. They do all of that stuff because it works. And they start out with little things to change your standards. Remember, we said really if you want to change your life, you need to become a different person. If you want a different quality of life, then you need to be a different person. Well, how do you do that? Well, you raise your standards. Okay, well, that sounds great, but how do you do that? Well, you start out with the little stuff. You start out with the little things. Watch what the military does. Where do they start? They start with your hair. They start with your dress. Everybody's going to have a short haircut because it's clean and it's uniform. Everybody's dress is going to be impeccable. We're going to start out with what you're wearing. Everything's going to be clean, it's going to be pressed, it's going to be tucked in, and it's going to be uniform. Next, we go to your bed. Every morning, your bed is going to be done impeccably, and they have all of these standards. The full back is 3 inches. It's tucked in. You can bounce a quarter off of it. That's where that came from. When you start living by those high standards in little things, then it works its way to the big things. And as they start running, what do? They start incanting. They start incanting about who they are. They start incanting about their new standards as Marines or as Army or as Air Force. If you watch any of the movies, those incantations that they're doing while they're running, those are all real. Air Force wings are made of lead. That's what the guys in the Navy are saying. And then the guys go back and watch Full Metal Jacket and watch what they're running. My Corps, your Corps, our Corps, the Marine Corps. That stuff works. Over time, that becomes your new standard. That becomes your new values. And that's who you become. You then live life at a different level. So all of these things that we're doing are all designed to create opportunities to look at things differently so that instead of looking at the problem, you're looking at the solution, and your brain will start going to that. If you keep saying to yourself, everything in life happens for a reason and it serves me. Life is happening for me, not to me. The more you say that when something comes up, your brain will automatically start looking for that. All right, everything happens for a reason that serves me. Well, where am I getting served? You'll start looking around. You'll start looking behind. And by the way, you'll notice that you'll actually physically move. When you start doing that, you'll actually physically turn to look. If you pay attention, your body will actually do that, going, okay, we got to look somewhere else because where I'm looking right now isn't serving me. So I got to figure out how this does serve me. So I want you to see the big picture on this stuff and how all of these things come together, and you don't have to do them perfectly. And if you find one or two that work great for you, then that's what you should do. But all of these things come together to create a conditioned response that raises your values, raises your standards, and makes it so that you constantly are managing your state in a way that serves you. And the more that you do this, the more that it'll become routine. So I'm going to give you another conditioning opportunity today, and we call this a swish pattern. There's a way that you can condition yourself to be the ultimate person that you want to be. And when you're doing this stuff, trust your subconscious, because your subconscious mind knows what you're trying to do, okay? Your other than conscious mind, however you want to do it. There's a part of your brain that runs things like your heartbeat, and like when you daze off and you're driving. There's a part of your brain that runs that stuff, that knows what you're supposed to be doing, and that's what you're talking to when you're doing these things. So a swish pattern is simply put something in front of you that you want to change. So, I would start out by making it a small thing. Biting your fingernails, something little like that. You've got some little habit that you want to get rid of. And then, off in the distance, imagine the perfect you. What you look like, the clothes that you're wearing, the jewelry, the car, the persona of if you were ultimately successful, and trust your instinct as to what that would look like, where you're at, what you're doing, all of those things, and have the perfect you in the background and the you that's doing something wrong that you don't want to do anymore in the foreground. And then use your physical body, use your hand, and imagine it's on like a slingshot. And you activate that slingshot, and the you that you want to become comes through and breaks through the you that's doing the things that you don't want to do and comes into you. And do it again and again and again, and use your physical body as you do it. using your physical body grinds the grooves into the record that much better. If we experience an event that's very emotional, that creates an emotional response, we have a much greater tendency to remember that event. 9/11. I bet all of you that were around when that happened can tell me exactly where you were when you heard about 9/11, and you'll be able to tell me what was going on, who you were with, how you felt. Well, how come? Because it elicited such an emotional response that it dug those grooves in the record very deeply, and they're easily accessible. Well, you can do that again, and you do it by using emotion, and you do it by using your physical body. So swish patterns are a great way to continue to condition yourself to move in the direction that you want to go. And you can't mess this up, okay? So some people get started on this stuff and they start visualizing. First of all, some people will say, I don't visualize. Well, yes, you do. It's just that the pictures come so quickly that your conscious mind doesn't see them. Everybody visualizes. Everybody does. That's how you know that certain things are a certain color, even though they're not in front of you. That's how you know that you can know that a tree is green simply because you can picture it in your head. The picture comes very quickly. So swish patterns, another great way. Bring it forward. Use your physical body. What I do when I'm running in the morning is I have the perfect me coming through, and it's kind of hard for me to say that. It makes me laugh. But the perfect me coming through and breaking through and coming into me. And I see myself like literally breaking through glass planes of things that I want to accomplish. And then as I step through, I've accomplished those. And I do that as I'm running along. And I try to remember to do that every morning. And then we also do our incantations in the morning. You'll see my wife and I in the park, and we'll be saying, all I need is within me now. All I need is within me now. All I need is within me now. So do a whole bunch of swish patterns. Remember, all of these things, you don't have to do them all. None of this is perfect, but all of this is working in the same direction. And if you find something that works great for you, then that's what you should do. Everybody that watches and says good morning, by the way, I would love to stop and say good morning to you all. When I do stop and say good morning, it interrupts my train of thought, and then I have a tough time getting back on. So that's why I try to say good morning on the notes afterwards. Also, I've been asked by a couple of people to put up a link. I've downloaded all of these videos onto a YouTube channel. So I will put up a link to the YouTube channel so you can access all the videos. I think we're coming up on about almost 2 months worth of videos every morning, which is super exciting. I'm proud of us all that we've done that. So do some swish patterns today. It's another great way to condition yourself. Everything that you're doing is improving the quality of your life. I'm proud of you guys. Let's take care of each other. We're all going to get through this.